Good morning, everybody. This is Norm from Crazy for Retro, and usually you would be seeing Peggy's face. This video here is a little different. It has to do with Peggy's brother's home, which we are getting ready to put on the market to sell. Her brother passed away on New Year's Day, 2022, and he had a long stretch of illness, which took a real toll on him and on Peggy and I as well. It was 5 hospital stays since June, and then 3 nursing home stays. And the last nursing home he was at, he was there for about a month, and he was getting ready to be discharged, or he was going to have to stay there and start paying for a monthly fee of around $11,000, which he was adamant about not wanting to spend his inheritance and his estate on nursing homes. He wanted to leave it to Peggy and her sister, Melissa. So, Steve, I'll set up a bedroom in our home and you can come and live with us. We had a 3-bedroom home 5 miles from his, and it had a private bathroom in it. So he finally agreed, reluctantly, but he decided to do that. And we ended up picking him up on Christmas Eve day in the morning, and Peggy was checking him out, and he had problems breathing, and the nurse seen what was going on. She brought in oxygen and gave him oxygen, and that settled him down. And then she said, look, Peg and Norm, you guys can't take him home. You don't have oxygen, and we don't know what's going on now. He was looking okay, better, but this morning I noticed he wasn't looking quite as well as he normally had. So we had to leave him there and went back home, and that's when he started requiring oxygen all the time. And I had totally cleared out a bedroom in our home for him, took out a dresser, a chest of drawers, chairs, other tables, completely cleaned it out, moved all that stuff into a second bedroom, which made that bedroom into a cave, practically. And I bought him a new bed, I bought him a new stand-up chair, I brought over the TV they had in his house and hooked up cable TV for him. And we got everything all set up for him because he had given us a list of what he really needed, and we took care of all that, but he never made it home to the house. New Year's Day, we went over there in the morning. We seen him, and we talked to him for about an hour and a half, and he said he was getting kind of tired, so we said, well, we'll come back another day, maybe tomorrow. And he said, well, you don't need to come back tomorrow, just come back in a couple of days. And I said, okay. So about 7 o'clock that night, we got a phone call from the nursing home saying that his vital signs were weakening, and they were going to watch him. 10 minutes later, they called back and said that he was getting worse. And 10 minutes later, they called him and said he passed away. Now we had to start dealing with the house. And originally we were going to do was put all the furniture into the front living room and have a thrift store come over and pick it all up. And then I started getting calls from friends of ours who had an antique shop in a small town where he's at, and saying, Norm, you really need to do an estate sale. Getting rid of the furniture is small potatoes compared to what he has here. It is full. He has a double-car garage, which is really a 2.5-car garage up by the house. In the back, he has another garage big enough for a motorhome, and also a double-car garage attached to that. That was both all full of everything under the sun. So we started thinking about it, and I had been spending about a month here cleaning the house out. Peggy did too. We had taken a lot of stuff off the walls. I carted them over to a place called Bibles for Missions to donate pictures and mirrors and stuff that were on the walls. And then we hooked up with this company to come out and do an estate sale. So the process of the house is in that right now. They're staging it, ready to get a sale going here in the first end of the week in April of 2022. And that's where we're at. So I'm going to take you room to room and show you what we've been doing and what is involved in doing a estate sale and getting the house ready. And one thing that I'm really happy what we did was we ended up getting a trust created for Steve instead of just having his will. When you have just a will and you pass away, then your house goes into probate. And it could take a year, year and a half, especially even longer now with the COVID situation, before you could get a court date to even take anything out of the house or sell it or anything. So when you do a trust, the house and everything comes the property of the trust, and it's in Steve's name, and Peggy is trustee to take care of that for his wishes, and I'm the one who follows up after that if Peggy can't handle it. So at least we're able to get in the house now and really start getting it ready for sale. We'd like to get it on the market as soon as possible. So that's where we're at. So I'm going to end this, and then we'll take you room to room and show you what we have to work with. This is on Main Street in a small town about 5 miles from our house. So I apologize for the traffic. It's this way every day, but this will be a good place for doing an estate sale because we're going to get about 1,000 cars to go by this house every day. This is the front of the house. You see the kind of traffic that we get coming here. And in the backyard, he has the large garage, double car garage, one big enough for a motorhome. And he's got a good sized yard in the back, very big. And then walking around the side here, he's got this nice asphalt driveway, which is L-shaped, so it gives you the ability to bring trailers in here and back around. And here's a double car garage in back. Over here, Steve has a 2-car garage, which is really about 2.5 car off the deck of the back of the house here. So that's where he would keep his truck, and we're going to show you inside of that, and the ones in the back too. He has these steps that go up to a deck here between the house and the garage. And as you can see, the garage in the back, good sized yard. Ignore these plastic fake trees here. They were in his family room where he had a collection of deer heads that he had shot over the years. And they were very dusty, so Peggy said, take them outside, let the snow on them, and rain on them, and try to clean them up. And they keep blowing over in the wind, but we'll probably toss those away when we get the chance. But let's go inside, and we'll show you more of the house. When you walk in the house, it's a nice big closet here for your clothes and everything. And we're just working on the process of getting it ready for an estate sale. Up here on the shelving, he had copper sets of canisters and different things like that. And then he had a complete set and a huge set of Looney Tune glasses. And they were up on the 2 ledges over here. And they went all the way down to here. So he had quite a collection of them. And it's, anyway, it's a nice house. And it's one that he's been in for, I don't know how many years, many years. But he enjoys the bachelor life, loves to fish and hunt. And he was here for a lot of years, and he had many friends, and I found that out because over here on the counter he had a phone machine. And when Steve was starting to get sick, I was getting phone calls appearing on the phone machine asking, Steve, where are you? You're not getting back to us. So I changed the phone message on the machine to say, hi, it's Steve. I'm out right now, but call my cell phone number. I'd like to talk to you. And I put in my cell phone number. And I started getting calls from friends he'd known for 40 years. And they were saying, where's Steve? What's going on? And I'd tell them about it, and I had to keep them updated for the whole period of time from June of last year up until the time that he passed. But he had a lot of friends, and they were very concerned about him and were worried about that he wasn't going to make it. And as time progressed, they could start realizing that that was the case. This is a little office that he had. And he had a computer here. I got him a computer, and he would use a computer for purchasing gun parts. He had a tool and die shop in Osseo for many years, and his friends started having heart attacks at the age of 55. So he said, well, I'm not going to do this. So he ended up selling his business off. He didn't sell the business. He sold the equipment and everything and just shut it down. And he came home and started working on building and refurbishing British carbines, Enfields, they're rifles. And he has a gun shop in the basement where he worked, and he enjoyed doing that. And he'd fix these rifles up, get new parts for them, and put them back together, make them like new, and then sell them in a gun shop over in White Bear Lake. Everything in this room was full. He had a card table here. This brown cabinet here is actually like a linen closet. Had shelves in there for towels and everything. And it actually was sitting in this doorway in the hall here, facing out. So when you walk by, you grab onto these handles here and open it up. And this other cabinet here was turned around. So these two cabinets here were back to back. And this was one for office supplies and stuff like that. He was a real clothes horse. He had all kinds of clothes. And the closets were full. And it was very nice stuff. We put all that out, and we took it all out and donated it to Bibles for Missions and other thrift stores. And we were doing all this thinking that we were going to be doing selling everything off ourselves, which was really dumb. I don't know what I was thinking. There's no way I could have handled this, and if it wasn't for Wally from the antique shop downtown here convincing me that I need to talk to a gentleman to have him come out and do an estate sale, I don't know where we'd be, probably nowhere. These are pictures that I brought up. Originally when Steve passed away, we came to the house and we took a lot of these home. These are ones that Peggy and I were making. These pictures are about 30 years old. That tells you how old I am. At any rate, it was an idea that I came up with when I was working and Peggy was retired from being a secretary, and we'd make these out of wood. I'd mount them. I'd make a 1/4-inch piece of plywood which had a veneer on it of oak, and then I'd make a backing for it of another board, masonite. That's what I'm trying to think of. And Peggy would draw a pattern. I'd saw them out on a jigsaw, sand the edges, and then Peggy would take over. She'd stain the pieces and put it all together, and I'd glue it down and clamp it, and then I'd make a frame. And we were selling these in a art gallery up in Nisswa, Minnesota, where my dad had a lake home that he built, and we were doing quite well. And some of the pictures, like this pileated woodpecker, we'd make the birds 2 layers. So the wood background was, the grain was going one way, and the pileated woodpecker would be going the other way. We had a pelican on a post, and many, many different patterns that we did. So I started bringing all this stuff back up to the house that we'd taken home. This is the family room that Steve would spend most of his time in. Everything has been moved around to the outside edges of the room to make it so people can walk through here. They're going to come in the front door, go through the living room, through the kitchen, into the bedrooms, and back into here, and then out into the garages is the game plan that this gentleman who's going to be running the estate sale has in mind. And Steve would sit here. There was a TV over here, and that chair was across from it. So Steve was sitting basically over here in front of these rattan and bamboo set that he has here. There's a couch and a love seat. They were set up in an L in the room here. Over here is a pantry. And so Steve was getting weaker and weaker, so he would be content to sit here and watch cable TV on his TV. And he was initially first trying to make his own meals, but he just couldn't do it. He was suffering from dizziness too, so it made him hard for him to stand up. So after we realized that, we realized that he wasn't going to be able to stay by himself. But this room has changed quite a bit. On this whole wall over here, on a wall right here, was a mule deer. It was a mule head that he had purchased from someone. But over on this entire wall here were 7 heads of 7 deers that he had shot over the years. And I'm going to inject a video that I took earlier with Peggy and her sister up here looking at the house, showing what the heads look like. We had a gentleman call up. He was from Baudette, Minnesota, up in the northern part of where Minnesota jogs into Canada. And he said, does Steve still have a gun safe? And I said, yeah, there's one in the basement. He said, well, I bought the sister safe to that, and Steve knew I wanted to get it, so if I could buy that from you, I'd have some guys come down and get it. So I said, okay. So we set up a time for him to come down and buy the gun safe and have the guys move it out. And I'm going to show some video of that a little bit later here. But I'll show what these deer look like. They're beautifully done. And long story short, after they got the safe out, I talked to Jeff and said, boy, you guys really worked hard getting that safe out. They spent 4 or 5 hours doing that. And I'll show the path that they had to go through to get all that out. But he said, what happened to all the deer heads on the wall? And I said, they're still there. And he said, look, these are really important to me because Steve was such a great friend. I want to buy the whole lot. So I settled on a price. So the Saturday, the guys came out, 5 guys came out to move the safe. And then the very next day, a couple guys came back and they took all the deer heads away, 8 of them. So that's really was I didn't know how we were going to get rid of these deer heads. And I'm glad I went to someone, a good friend of Steve, that would really enjoy it. This here's a deer head that Steve purchased from someone. He didn't shoot this one, but he liked the way it was shaped and the look of it. And it's really, really nice. Then over here on the wall, we have all deers that Steve actually shot. And the condition of them is, well, I'm not an expert, but they look very, very good shape. They don't have anything going on with the fur or anything. It looks like it's a live animal. This is another angle of these deer heads. And they're really nice. Wonderful shape, so. And there's another rack on the corner over there. They were all stacked up on a wood board in the basement to keep them off the floor. We found about 15 of those, and some are downstairs, some are on the couch here. And they're just beautiful prints. And then over on the floor here, in the closet of one of the bedrooms, I found about 12 of these prints that they're ready to be printed from an art gallery. Mostly all of them are pheasants from Pheasants Unlimited, and they're ready to be taken out and framed. So the art galleries sell them like this. He was a member of Pheasants Forever, so he probably bought one of these every year. And they're numbered and signed by the artist, and they're beautiful prints, so that was another surprise. I tell you, when you go through somebody's house, and then you have to clean it out, you'd be surprised what all kinds of stuff that you find that are tucked away that he was saving and you didn't even know about. But this is a room where Steve was spending most of his days until he got too sick to be able to handle it anymore. So Peggy and I brought up some additional stuff that we'd had from our house. We thought these are plaques from we had in my garage at home that I'm just getting overloaded with and stuff like that. But it's they're called Burwood is the manufacturer of these, and they're very nice plaques, very detailed and fun. Over here is a picture of Mae West when Steve was out traveling when he was younger. She signed this picture of Mae West and said, "To Steve." So he must have met her at a show in Vegas. This is the combination family room and dining room. When Steve was alive, this table here, which is actually a dinette set, it's an oak table that Peggy and I owned for years. It has another leaf over there leading up the wall, and there's one in it right now, the 4 chairs and the armchairs on the end. He had it literally right in the middle of this room, and it was full of shirts that he had washed. Instead of hanging them up, he just piled them on there. And there's a lot more furniture in here. They've moved a lot of it out to the bedrooms. Actually, because I was going to have this all taken out by a thrift store or a place like Bibles for Missions, I had lugged a lot of the furniture from the bedrooms out here and got it ready for they to take it out the front door and off of the deck, or the truck. But everything's been moved back in by the guys that are doing the estate sale, so they know what they're doing. I don't. This is a curio cabinet Peggy had at our house, and when she got into more retro furnishings. She asked Steve if he wanted. He took that home, as was with this corner pine unit that we bought up at a shop in Nisswa. He had that in the bedroom, and over here was another one that was also in the bedroom that we had and gave to Steve. This is kind of a neat picture here. It's 1905 to 1941 Colt automatic pistols. A lot of the guys that have come through here really admired this picture here, and I think that'll sell for sure. I brought some boats that I had. This is a ship in a bottle. This is the biggest ship I've ever seen with the most sails on it. I had counted them one time, but I forgot how many there are. But I'm trying to make my basement playroom that I have, or that nobody's seen, and Peggy's crazy for retro videos yet. Anyway, so they've rearranged everything here, and there's some remaining pictures on the wall. This is I understand it's called a lawyer's cabinet. It stacks up. I suppose they had a lot of law books in it, if I'm correct. Another beautiful piece of furniture here with curved glass and pictures on the wall. Now, this one here is kind of strange. Excuse me again. Looks kind of like a Little Red Riding Hood scenario. Looks like a little girl bringing flowers to her grandmother, who is actually a wolf. Kind of an odd picture, but, and with the glare of everything, it's a little hard to see, but anyway, he had a lot of Western pictures. This one here is Custer's Last Fight by Anheuser-Busch Brewing Association. That's a picture I'm sure will sell. And there's a couple of pictures that have sold already. And here's some Indians working on sending smoke signals. So they're trying to see if they can let the tribe across the town know that they're late for dinner tonight, so keep some food ready for them. If we go down the hall here, he had pictures everywhere, and a lot of them were the wood pictures that Peggy and I had made. This is the door I was talking about, where this linen closet was actually facing me. Back here is one bedroom, and I took it apart. It was full of pictures and mirrors on the wall, and I loaded them all up and took them over to Bibles for Missions and donated to them. This was before we decided to do the estate sale. But Peggy's sister, Melissa, wants this headboard, and unfortunately this headboard has to go with this bed frame, because the headboard and the bed frame are made to bolt together at the ends of the frame. So I'm going to have to get that down there. There was a big TV over here. He had 5 rooms with cable TV in it. Bedrooms, a kitchen, the front room where he would spend most of his time, and down in the basement in his workroom. He had quite a cable bill, and when he decided to move into our house, I had to come up here and gather all that equipment, take it back to Comcast, and then set up cable TV for our house and lug his TV over and get that all set up. But none of that turned out to be that he could use it. I plugged in this lamp here. It's kind of neat. It's kind of, Peggy has a different name for it. It looks kind of Art Deco-ish to me, but she's the expert on stuff like that. So she does a lot better explaining things than I do. Hi Norm, how you doing today? I'm getting tired. Need to go get some lunch. Let's go down the basement and I'll show you what was involved with getting this safe out of the house. Well, let's go downstairs. I'll show you what we got down here. Over here is the laundry room, and I see they've been staging it for the estate sale. And they got a lot of different kinds of old containers, bottles of stuff, glycerin and Vicks. And Peggy said to make sure to take home this Ajax bottle, or Ajax Arm & Hammer. Can use that at home. Here's a macrame on the wall. He had another huge macrame over on that wall. I used to macrame when we were younger, Peggy and I, and she kind of liked what I made, but I stopped doing that years ago. But this one was a big one. Getting back to the laundry room here, he's got a lot of cabinets, a lot of stuff to be put on the sale, and a bathroom back there. And if we go out of this room, there's a room over here that is kind of like, could be an office or it could actually be a bedroom. It has a window up there, which I believe someone could crawl out of if there was a fire. So I think possibly this might be considered a legal bedroom to make in the house a 3-bedroom home. And this was so full, you could not even walk in here. Just stuff all over the floor. An ironing board set up in here and stuff piled on it. He had Tonka toy trucks down here. And you name it, and these guys have gone through and have started organizing this place and making it so you can actually go walk around to see what is for sale. It's got a roll-top desk in here. Lots of, he collected coffee pots and stuff, and he kept the cords and everything too, so he's got all these blenders, so it's, everything is complete, and sometimes even saved the cardboard box for it. It's crazy. Anyway, and this is kind of a main family room down in the basement here. And as you can see, there are more pictures on the wall that we found. They were stacked over here in the other room where the safe was. I'll show you that in a minute. A lot of Western art. And what do you know? Here is another picture of the guys sending smoke signals. I'm thinking that these guys are sending smoke signals to the guys upstairs. And I don't know if they're coming through it or what, but I don't know why he has 2 of these in the same one. He collected a lot of coffee crafts, as you can see, and Peggy's taken some home and used for her kitchen. Steve was constantly giving Peggy stuff, saying, Peggy, just take anything you want out of the house, it's yours. And Melissa, give it to her. And I don't need it anymore. He could kind of see that his health was going down and he wasn't going to be around too much longer, so he was wanting us to start cleaning the house out. We put some stuff on Facebook Marketplace. This couch used to be sitting over here in the center of the room facing this TV and stereo system over here. And behind where the couch is, along this wall, Steve had 7 saddles. And these saddles from the 1800s and 1900s, Custer Civil War and Indian Wars, history that I really don't understand, but Steve knew more about that. And Steve sold one of these saddles to a gentleman from Moorhead, and he came down about a month later, picked it up, and when he was here, he decided to take 2 more saddles. And he was a gun collector, so I showed him some guns that Steve had in the family room upstairs where Steve was watching TV that were for sale and all ready to go back to this gun dealer. He ended up buying those, so he walked away with quite a bit of stuff. And here, just a few days ago, he came down a second time to pick up some more rifles and the rest of the saddles. So we're glad that we were able to get that stuff out. More artwork, Western style, and he's got some fish mounts up on the wall here, and a wood-burning stove, which I've never seen it being used. I don't think Steve had the time for it. Steve was a hunter and a fisherman, and that's all he really cared about, was getting out and hunting and fishing. Over here is a room that was just literally packed. You had a narrow path over where that table was, and where that table was is where the safe was sitting that needed to be taken out. And it was a huge safe. It was about as wide as that table was, and as high up, it covered up the window practically. I didn't even know there was a window there. It was so big. And it's packed with gun equipment stocks for these carbine rifles hanging. He's got rifle bags hanging all over the place. More here. A lot of the stuff has been transferred over into the gun room that we'll go into in a little bit. And over here, was a wood platform where all those prints were stacked up, nice and clean and neat. So he took care of a lot of this stuff. It's just that he never got it mounted on the floor. But anyway, from over here where the safe was sitting, they had to move it across the floor here and out this door that is for the gun room that he has here, and down some steps. And I had moved a couple of these tables out of the way so they had a straight shot up to the back door and out. And I'm going to show a video of them muscling the safe through the room. And we put cardboard down on the steps, and they tied a strap to it, and they had a truck out there, a pickup truck with a topper on it, and they hitched it up to the trailer hitch on that truck, and they actually pulled that safe right up the steps and out. I couldn't believe it. Wondered how they're going to get that thing out. And over here in this room, it is just cram-packed full of stuff. Steve was purchasing all these completely finished stocks for different kinds of rifles, mostly this British carbines. And some of the prices on these things are $225 for each stock. Here's one for $200. I've seen some for $425. They're for different rifles, and they're beautifully all finished. They're like they're brand new, ready to have the hardware put back on. And Steve, because he had a tool and die shop, he's got tons of screws and bolts and you name it, drills, grinders, sanders. It's packed. And these guys had a real job getting all this out. And there's something I didn't tell you folks about it. When we had the obituary printed in the newspaper, about 4 days later, the house was broken into. And I got a call from the neighbor. He was coming over to get some stuff that we left for him that Steve said he could have. And he said, called me on the phone and said, Norm, the handle on the door is broken off. You better get up here. So I came up here and I went through the house, and then I called the police after I checked everything out. What was kind of disheartening was on this bench here, Steve had 3 rifles, and one of them was what this gentleman from Moorhead really wanted bad. He actually called Steve when Steve was in the hospital, and Steve said he wouldn't sell it because it's not completed. So I told Carl that, well, when Steve gets back home and he gets the rifle finished, I'll make sure that you get notified. And when I came down here, the rifles were gone. And I thought, oh, great, now I got to call Carl and tell him that his rifle has been stolen. But when I went upstairs, going through the house to see if anybody was here, I was carrying a knife with me. But I got up to the living room, and over in the living room by the curio cabinet was 2 rifle bags laying there. And I thought, well, what the heck? I didn't put those there. I went over. 2 of the rifles were stuffed in one bag. There was another rifle bag in back with a 3rd rifle in it. So they didn't take the rifles. And at the bottom of the basement stairs, they had stacked up boxes of Stetson hats that Steve had. And it's like they must have been scared off or something, because I don't understand, or they were planning on coming back. But we called the police, and they came out, went through the house, checked it all out, and then they put a trap on the front door upstairs to be able to, a pressure plate under a rug. So if anybody broke in and they stepped on it, it would call the police silently, and the police would come over and arrest them. And we had to call the police anytime we wanted to get back in the house and let them know we were coming in. They'd stop by, and an officer I'd get the door open, and he'd come in and disable the alarm, and we could work here for a few hours, and then we'd call and he'd come back and reset it. But yeah, this place is full. We have another guy coming out here, I hope pretty soon. There's a stock, $325. But there's gun parts all over the place here, and there's a guy here very interested in buying all these parts. These are called receivers for the guns. I don't know anything about building these guns, but I know it's a lot of hard work and a lot of work to find all the correct pieces. This is called a bolt, and when Carl wanted to, let me get it over here, it's focused better. The one rifle he wanted had a bolt missing in it. So we had a hard time figuring out which one it was, but we finally figured it out and got it in there. So Carl, when he came back, he bought the 3 rifles and some other items in here that he wanted and the rest of the saddle. So that really helped. Now I think what I'll do is well, let's see this. You can see these steps here. A narrow door that's safe, just made it out. And these guys worked for hours getting it through here. Well, let's go out to the garage and I'll show you what's in there. But you can see there's so much stuff here to deal with that it's just incredible. If we weren't going to have this cleaned out and then set up for an estate sale, I'd almost leave everything the way it is and hope that some buyer was a gun maker that wanted it. It's a nice room and a nice shop. So it's going to be, and what's nice are these garages out back, one big enough for a motorhome and a double car garage after that. Guys just love having space like that. I could see a bunch of guys moving in this house and wanting to hunt and fish and have their base camp here. Well, let's go out to the garage and I'll show you what's out there. Another nightmare to look at and try to get rid of. Again, I apologize for the road traffic and noise we're going to be hearing when cars go by, but it's a busy street, main street in a small town. And I took everything down from the rafters that Steve had up there and put it on the floor. And I was working over here one day and Wally from the antique shop came over and he said, "Norm, you've got to do an estate sale. There's too much here to get rid of." So I agreed with him and we met with the gentleman and we set it up to have them start it. They haven't been out here to stage this. I see he's got some tables here that he's going to set up, but Steve had a workbench over here and it's just full of boxes and bottles of oil and different things he's working on for staining the guns, and it's just crazy. There's an old typewriter back here on this desk. I found a whole cardboard box full of shotgun shells. I called Al at Al's gun shop in White Bear Lake, friend Steve, who I was selling the rifles for him. I told him about it and Al said, "Well, bring them over, I'll sell them." So I said, okay. And then when I go down into the drawers on this desk were bullets, and they were huge bullets, really, really long. I don't know what they were for, but when I got over there, Al said they're for elk hunting and whatnot. So he sold all that stuff, and a couple weeks later he called and said, "Norm, I sold them for $500, all those shotgun shells and the bullets." So I was amazed at that. So we split the profits because he's a good friend to Steve. He helped Steve all along. Since Steve had a tool and die shop, he had lots of tools. He had an air compressor here that a neighbor bought. And this cabinet here, I don't know how Steve got it over here. It's probably from his tool and die shop, but it is full of bolts. And these are heavy, heavy drawers, just any one you pick. So Steve would have had to take all those drawers out, put that case, which isn't light in itself, in his truck, put everything back in, drive it over here, unload it, move it over here, and fill it back up. That must have been a chore just for a day's work to bring that over. Anyway, yeah, this is just the front garage. And he had a lot of fishing equipment. Up in the rafters, I found 60 fishing rods, casting reels, spinning reels, and there's even more rods down here. And he must have had about 20 tackle boxes. There's a tackle box there. There's one over there. There's a bunch down here on the floor, and I've got about 8 of them or 10 of them that I took home. They're all full of fishing lures. I found cardboard boxes full of fishing lures still in the boxes from the manufacturer. And I see these old fishing lures in antique shops, and I can't believe the price they get for that stuff. So, but every one of these cabinets is full of stuff, more fishing lures and whatnot. He's got folding chairs here, hammock. And up on the rafters, one box I didn't get down yet. I'm not quite sure what that is, but this is all stuff that he had on his cart that he'd used to take to gun shows. So you can see what you're dealing with when you have to clean all this out. It's kind of nerve-wracking in a way, but we'll get it through it. But let's close this garage door down and we'll head in the back and I'll show you what's in the one back there. So yeah, it's a big job yet to do, and I don't know how much you're going to sell on this estate sale, but I hope it's as much as possible, obviously, and even more. I think this house will sell very quickly. It's got a huge backyard. This is the door that they took the safe out of, and they backed their truck and trailer over here. The ground is still frozen, so it didn't hurt the ground at all, but they didn't want to back it any farther. And then they got the safe out and scooted it along all the way over to there. So that was a job in itself. And like I said, I'll put that video in here probably towards the end of the show. So let's go in the first garage here. He had a garden here. You know, I was bringing rhubarb over to Peggy. He had dogs, so he'd have kennels over there. He used to have a couple horses that he kept at a ranch nearby, so he'd go horseback riding. And he just spent a lot of his time fishing and hunting with the guys. Most of the guys he knew, they were hunter fishermen as well, and they would take off from their businesses and they would go all over the country. Deer hunting, elk hunting, they even went bear hunting once. And Steve did that once and he said, that's enough for me. He said, if you miss the bear, you're probably going to be the bear's dinner, so you don't want to do that. But anyway, well, let's go inside here. This was another reason when Wally took me back here and said, look, Norm, just look at the tools you got to try to sell, or even just give away as a job, hauling it. So this is going to be, he had more stuff down here. Old minnow buckets, jacks. These look like tubes for fishing rods would be in here. Palermo. Every time I come in here, I'm noticing more and more stuff. So he's got a floor grinder here. That's the door to the other garage. Over here, a floor sander. Cold and damp out here this morning, but gas cans, pans, buckets, pots, more ladders. It's really a lot to deal with. Probably haven't even seen half the stuff yet that we've got to deal with. Well, now let me take you over to this other one. And there's a switch on the wall here. This one's got a lot of wood in it. He used this table saw here to build a hunting shack down in this ranch that he'd go down to in Iowa. He'd stay down with a guy named Uncle Ray. They'd go hunting. All the guys would go down in a group and they'd be hunting deer for a whole weekend and having a wonderful time together. So this is another huge area to clean out. A lot of big timbers here. In front of this floor saw was it was a power miter box, and was on a table that had wheels on it. And Steve said, Norm, why don't you take that power miter box home, because he knows I like doing woodworking. So last fall I took it off the stand because I couldn't get everything in the van. I brought the miter box home, and then it started snowing. Well, just yesterday, I came back here and I loaded up the stand and got that back to our home. So that's out of here. So the guys are going to be coming and working on staging these garages. So that's going to be a real challenge for them. But yep, it's a lot to deal with. Well, I think I'm going to head back home and put this video on the computer and have Peggy help edit it with me. Steve was a great brother-in-law. He couldn't have been he was like a brother, really. And he loved Peggy and Melissa and his mom. And he was very generous with the gals. and he loved taking care of them, and they all loved taking care of him. And we're glad we're able to give Steve all the assistance and help he needed in the last months of his life. I hope this was an interesting video, and thank you for your time, and thank you for supporting Peggy's Crazy for Retro channel. I don't really do this stuff. I usually leave that all to Peggy. She's the one with a nice smooth voice. Everything rolls off her tongue. I'm not that good at this, but I get the idea of anyways what we're just trying to show. The work involved in closing down somebody's life and getting rid of their possessions and everything. It's a really sad time too. Thank you.
I think we can drop it down and it'll be on the...
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah. Watch your fucking fingers too. Just keep easing it, Pat.
I'll assume before it touches. Okay. Now, like,
Jeez.
what I'll do is, yeah, on the other side, and then put that over there. Okay, just keep walking it. Keep walking my way. There you go. Yeah. Now, like that. There you go. There you go. Just so we get kind of past that step and set it down and put it on the dolly again. Close, we're almost there. Close. A little more? Yeah, are you taking pictures of this so we can
Yeah, I did.
fucking Jeff?
Yep.
How much?
Okay.
Keep
Let's see
coming.
here.
I got it, I got it.
You know what I mean?
Now they're going to try to use a truck to pull it up the steps, hopefully. Oh, that's the job.
Or let's go short. Hold it! Hey, keep going easy.
See, once it gets to a point, it's gonna want to drop down.
Yeah, I know. Okay, stop! Stop! Alright, I'm gonna need a bunch of you guys. Is it under it? Huh?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, just pull it, just little by little, easy, you know? Let's get some more. There we go. Yeah. Good.
Hold up, hold up. Okay.
Watch out, it's gonna drop a little bit as that ledge.
Yep.
You want to get one more under here? Because we'll just keep coming out of it. It's on the grass. Okay, just a little bit. Keep going. Yep. There you go. Keep going. Yeah. And it's on the wheel right there.
Oh, it's out of the house. Holy cow.
Okay, that's good. Back up.
That thing is...
Here. No. Keep it at that angle so it's just... Okay.
Wait a minute. Why don't I back the truck?
No, here, I'll get it. Let's just set it down. Ready?